Good morning everybody and welcome back to All the Awesome Adventures. Today we're preparing for a fishing trip, and what we've got here is I've got a new Shimano Corvallis. It's a 400 series reel. Don't know if you guys can see there, along with a new Sensation Tiger Tamer rod. Come on, focus. There we go. It's extra heavy rod. It's 7 foot. All of that, you can see all the specs there. What I'll be doing is I'll be showing you how I put braid on my reels. There's a million ways to do it, so do not think this is the only way. I've got a roll of 40-pound 8X braid that we're going to put on there. So what I do is I fit the reel onto the rod and then run the line through the eyes of the rod. So you can use just the forend. I run it through the whole rod, get a feeling for it, see what it does. I want to get the line on here as straight as possible with the least amount of kinks as possible. So that brings us to the next step. Is now I hold the braid while I'm going through it, while I'm using it. So let's get this sticker off here. So I take my little dustbin and a screwdriver, and I just punch the braid through the screwdriver, put it back into the dustbin. Come on, I can get it right here. And there we go. Now we've got now it'll roll off from the reel, from the spool onto the reel. What I like to do is I like to get the line flowing onto the reel as it's coming off the spool. So off the spool onto the reel, or onto the rod, onto the reel. So let me thread this through the eyes and we'll take it from there. Okay, so once we've got it threaded through the rod, I like to do an arbor knot. So I'll take it through over on the top end of the reel, as you can see there, and now you have to get it under the loop. So what happens is when your normal small bass bait casters, you've got a hole in the spool, and that actually makes it easy. You just put it through the hole and you wind it up. In this case we are not that lucky. It's a bit of a bigger reel, so we have to make sure that we get it around there. Alright, so now we've got it onto the spool in the direction. The line feeds in the direction that it needs to feed out. So what we'll do then is then what I do is I use an arbor knot. So what an arbor knot is, basically two overhand knots. So I'll tie the first overhand knot, leaving about, I'd say there's about an inch of tag end left. And then what I'll do is I will, I've got to get this line out here, so I'll tie another overhand knot around the line going off of your spool. Don't pull it too tight, and then I just pull the whole thing. And then what I'll then do is I will keep a finger on this one and let it feed in. And what you're basically doing is you're cinching the one knot back onto the other one. You'll see it gets stuck right on the second overhand knot, and then I'll just put my finger there and pull it tight. Now the problem with braided line and a smooth spool like this is you get the line onto the spool, but then it starts spinning on the spool. So what I normally do is take a piece of electrical insulation tape. Let's call it about an inch, not critical, and then stick it right onto that knot. Make sure the knot's in the middle of the spool or as close to as possible, and stick the electrical tape right onto the knot there, making sure that it is nice and flat on there. Right, what will happen now is you can actually cut off that little tag end now. Come on, cut the tag end shorter. Right, so what will happen now is as the line rolls onto the spool, it will cinch down and bite into that little piece of electrical tape, making sure that it does not slip onto the spool. Right, so now we can start reeling it in. What I like to do is I like to get myself a piece of rag. I buy this stuff from the auto parts store by the bale, and what I do then is I put the line through my fingers like that. So what I'll do is I'll grab onto the rod and make sure that I've got a little Z flowing through. Where we now? Sorry about that. A little Z flowing through your fingers. It just makes sure that, well, it ensures that we keep the line tight. What you want to do is you want to keep braided line as tight as possible when winding it back onto the reel. The reason for that is if the line's not tight on the reel, it tends to bite into itself as you putting strain on a fish. So by putting it on as tight as possible, you're preventing that line from next time biting into itself. So what you'll do is you'll put your drag on full as hard as possible. There we go. Get your line fade through your fingers. Keep your, let's call it rag end, as far up on the rod as is comfortable. It just makes sure that the line flows onto the reel through the level wind as naturally as possible. Put some decent strain on the line, and then you can start reeling it up. Now this is one thing, you do not want to just gun it and make sure that it gets done as soon as you can. You want to do this decently. I mean, this line is going to be on here for a while, so might as well do it proper. And there we go. So now we have got it rolled onto the spool with about a 1/16 of an inch. This is maybe a little bit more, but you still have to get it through your rod and all of that, and I know I'm gonna still practice with a rod. So you leave about 1/16 of an inch of the spool left. Now you know you're full of line. This reel actually took the whole 300 yards and just came out perfect. So with that, spooling up a bait caster, this is how I do it. It's a quick little one, well, couple of minutes sort of scenario. But like I said, make sure that you have got your line on tight so that it doesn't bite back into the rest of the spool. On your first cast, take it slow, get it all set up, and then you will see on your first couple of casts it will actually cast slow and not as far. That's because you put on the line very tight, so it's still sticking to each other. So the moment you get a couple of casts in, it'll settle down, and then you'll have that top section of line doing what it's doing, and having a good fishing experience with it. And with that, I'm going to call it. Thanks for watching. As always, please rate, comment, subscribe, and get out there and make adventures.